Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Frankie Marayan and I run an agency that helps e-commerce brands that are spending money on their ads increase their back-end retention revenue with back-end ecosystems. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about what is back-end ecosystems, why it's important, and why you need it now. But more importantly, we're going to talk about the components of it as well. Right above me or to the side, somewhere around here, I should have a definition of what an ecosystem is. And I'm going to read it off for you. An ecosystem is a specific area where living organisms such as plants, animals interact with each other and with their non-living environment, like soil, water, and air, and then more, various living things around. All right. Now that we got the definition out of the way, an ecosystem essentially should evolve around your brand. Your brand is a living organism. A lot of times when we come to learn about a business, we learn about LLCs, right? If you haven't been in, whether it's business school or looked it up on ChatGPT or you just found it on Google, you more than likely know that a business is an entity after you establish. An entity is a component, right? It's a component of an ecosystem. And what we're trying to do with our business, as you start growing along, as you're growing this online business, you need to build things around it in order for it to grow and sustain itself. But we kind of get lost in the mix of whether I should do social media here, whether I should run paid ads here, whether I should do this, that, and a third. Bottom line is we need to do as many things as possible to attract our ideal customer. That's the key. We attract our ideal customer. That's the acquisition side of things. However, once we bring our customer into the funnel or into our environment, which is a portion of our ecosystem, a lot of times we don't think about how to retain that customer or how to keep that customer circling around in our ecosystem or how to push them further down in our ecosystem. We just talk about tofu, mofu, bofu, top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel. And once we convert them, they're just converted. And then maybe we try to keep them on with maybe it's our recurring service or something thereafter. But it's not explicitly stated on how to consistently grow your back-end ecosystem to attain more customers, ideal customers, and then also to string along the people that you already have within your ecosystem to have them play a bigger role. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be drawing on my iPad just to kind of give you a little bit more visual things. This is something new that I'm trying out. You can let me know if you like it or you don't. All right, so I'm going to draw a little bit about what I was stating before. So you have a brand. Your brand is the ecosystem. Right? And within your brand, you need to build out the components of the ecosystem. So what are those components? So as I mentioned before, we typically think of a marketing funnel, which is kind of like this. I know my handwriting's not that good, but we have the top of funnel, right? Middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. What do those mean? So how I interpret it and how I've been learning marketing myself, typically is top of funnel is how you're trying to bring people in. It's the acquisition side of things. So that could be with ads and, I call it media buying. So display marketing, whether if you're an e-commerce store, right? You might be marketing on Amazon. You might be marketing on Facebook. You might be marketing on TikTok, things of that nature. You're trying to bring these new visitors or people who have never purchased into your ecosystem, into your network, right? So first you get them in, or you just get your brand seen. And once you get it seen and you get them into your ecosystem, whether it's with them signing up on your website, with pop-up forms, whether it's them giving you their data in some sort of way, now they're at the top of funnel and you're moving them down now into the middle of funnel. And what do you do at the middle of funnel? That's where they're aware of your brand. They might be a little bit more like, okay, I might know what I need to solve a problem, or maybe I know what I need to buy from this brand, but they just still haven't bought yet. Okay? So they're here. Person is here. Look at my little stick figure here. They're just riding a boat. You got all these people down here. And this middle of funnel, typically, from my understanding, is where we start doing a little bit more nurturing. We try to build more and more trust. You can do this on the top of funnel side too as well, especially if you get really, really good at direct response marketing. However, sometimes we're living in a certain age where trust is a little bit more, people are more a little skeptical. So we need to nurture these people. And how do we nurture them? So you might bring them onto your website and we nurture them and we get their information through pop-ups, right? We might do retargeting with certain pixels, retargeting ads, and that could be Meta, Google, things of that nature. All right, so this is where we're gauging their interest, and now we're building content and or ads or display advertising in order to start nurturing them. Remember, what are we nurturing them for? We're nurturing them to get them to this BOFU stage. This is getting a little messy. So what's happening at this bottom of funnel stage? What's happening is they're making a decision. They're making a decision to purchase your product or basically stay in this middle of funnel stage. So by the time they hit this BOFU side, they clicked an ad. We're nurturing them through emails, things of that nature. Oh, and I forgot to say, here in the pop-ups, this equates to us doing email and SMS. Okay, so middle funnel involves pop-ups, meaning you're collecting their data, you're collecting their information, and then you're nurturing with email and SMS, and that in turns goes into retargeting ads, Meta, Google, things of that nature, and then they make a purchase decision, and that's where the money comes in, the bottom of funnel. But here's the thing, what happens after this? Maybe you have subscriptions, so maybe it's just a reverse. You're sending it back up to middle of funnel to make sure you're nurturing that client. That way, when the subscription time comes back around, they feel confident to subscribe in you. Obviously, you have to make sure you have a great product, things of that nature. However, I believe this thinking is starting to become, it works. However, I feel like we have to look at things in a little bit more granular way now with ecosystems, because there are going to be more and more competitors coming into the market because building an econ store is so easy now. Now people can take their 401k, can take everything and just ask AI how to build things up from scratch. And then what does that do in turn? That makes people, it floods the market. It floods the media buying market with more and more ads. So your CPMs are going to rise, cost per impression. And then your CAC is going to rise, cost to acquire a customer, essentially, if you're going to get more and more competitors inside of these marketing platforms like Meta or like Google. So let's get rid of this and let's talk about the backend ecosystem method. The backend ecosystem method, remember, this is your brand. Let's get rid of this too. All right, so this is your brand. Your brand is this circle, and you want to capture people into this circle. So let's actually make a small little, hole. And this is like the funnel, okay? Let's make like a little, it's like a little pipe, and then you have the funnel into here. All right, and how do you get people into your funnel? Well, first we're just gonna name this acquisition. Had to sound that out just in case I spelled that wrong, and I did spell it wrong. You get the gist. All right, but basically you bring people through acquisition, right? It's exactly like the tofu, mofu, bofu style funnel, where top of funnel, you're trying to acquire people first into your system. So you're bringing them in. But here's the difference here. We want to cycle them through once we're in this ecosystem, okay? And make sure that they're constantly being refreshed and they're constantly being met with quality. They're constantly being met with good content. They're constantly being met with emails, SMS. It's an omni-channel approach. I think this method better equates to omni-channel marketing. So, okay, so that's how I want us to look at this from here on out. Omni-channel marketing. So what happens when we come into here, right? Obviously, we need to capture their data, but sometimes we might not capture their data. So let's go into, they might sign a pop-up form. All right. They come into here. But what happens if they don't sign the pop-up, right? Well, there's different types of softwares these days that we can actually capture these people's information. Not everyone's, but just a small amount. A cool brand that I've been looking to and I've actually been using on my website right now is something called OpenSyn. There's another one called Revenue Roll I heard about. And there's another one called retention.com, I believe. This is how you capture information of people that you're spending money to acquire on your store if they don't actually sign up. So this is a small amount of how we can capture more people to be a part of our ecosystem. Something like OpenSyn, I use it for my brand. I just signed up for it. And what you do is you actually implement a piece of code on your website, and with their API and things of that nature, it looks to find and identify that user and almost de-anonymize it. So it's an anonymous user when they enter your website, and we're not able to see its information or it being the person who's visiting your website. So it de-anonymizes it by giving us their email, their LinkedIn, things of that nature in order to know who it is. And now we can put that in your CRM if you're an online service-based business, or if you're an e-commerce store, you can store that somewhere in something like a Klaviyo or Open or too many O's, OmniSyn, in order to keep their email in place and their number. So this is how you can capture data. So we're going to call this first part a data capture. All right. So first, all this is data capturing. Data capture. And this data capture is just essentially capturing their emails, their SMS, and any other relevant data that will be good for you when it comes to building ads for them, and when it comes to obviously sending out email and SMS. So it can be something like their interests, their pain point. Why are they visiting your store? Their store, maybe you sell running shoes, and maybe they have the pain of their heel hurts when they're on mile 25. So you could say, what type of shoes are you looking for? Are you looking for trainers for playing a certain sport, or are you looking for long distance runners? So capturing specific data at the pop-up step will allow you to market better on the back end. And that kind of leads us into the next thing, which is called nurturing. All right. So this is a part of an ecosystem, right? So when you're in an ecosystem, it's like a clock. It's like a clock going round and round and round. And after you capture the data, you have to do something with the data. And this is first-party data. If you guys don't know what first-party data is, it's becoming more and more prevalent today and age, mostly because of iOS and what Meta and Google is doing because of privacy laws. But first-party data is essentially data that you have captured. So think of someone like Alex Hormozy or some of the other bigger influencers. When they talk about email, when they talk about marketing, think about it. They have a big database of people who have actually watched their content or have visited their website. So if they visit their website or they have watched their content, that gives them ability to capture first-party data. And in your case, as an e-commerce store or online brand, you'll be able to capture the data with pop-ups. And again, one of those tools that I mentioned that you're able to de-anonymize those users that visit your site. And that data then in terms lets us do omni-channel marketing. And that omni-channel marketing, as I mentioned, is through email, SMS, or retargeting ads. So this is when we start retargeting. All right. And once we start retargeting, we can retarget with ads or back-end systems like email and SMS. All right. And then this is the period where we're really starting to build out this content, right? And this retargeting of these ads and the emails and SMS, this is actually done through flows. So retargeting is done through flows and automations. This is done through automations and flows. Once you capture that data, no matter the source, that first party data, that's when we throw it into your ads. That's when we throw it into your email and SMS. That's when we throw it into all of our different marketing channels. That way we can start hitting these people exactly wherever their eyeballs are at, wherever their attention is at. We want to be in front of their face 24/7. It's almost like something I call hypnosis, which I'll talk a little bit about later. But essentially, once you retarget, it's like a PMax campaign. If you're not familiar with Google Ads, there's something called Performance Max, where you're basically popping up on all of Google's products. And when we're retargeting our ads, essentially you want to do the same. And you can do the same by capturing your information. Once we have that data, we send it off to Facebook, and then we send it off to Google or any other platform, and it does matching. And then once that matching happens, then essentially we will be able to market to them. Now that matching is a very low match rate sometimes, so that's why we'll also establish a Google and Facebook pixel onto your website. That way Facebook actually knows who visits your website, but it's not allowed to like de-anonymize that data. So it's not first party data, but then we can still retarget them. It's like a double-edged sword. You can have first party data, but you can also do retargeting, but not know who you're retargeting to. It's just Google and Facebook knows who you're retargeting, but it's a good way for us to try to hit on all bases. All right, so what happens after retargeting email and SMS? So what happens after this is now we're in this waiting period, right? We're in this waiting period of just constant nurturing. And during this constant nurturing period, we want to make sure that we're educating your audience on your brand. We're building a brand here. We're not just building a drop shipping store that's here today and going tomorrow. We're building a brand, either A, to pass down to our kids, or one day sell to an M&A company or sell to someone else. We're building a brand that lasts with or without you and or the people that works for it currently right now. You can just pass it over into another hand. But in order to do that, not diving into operations because I'm not an operations head, we do that by building loyalty. And we build loyalty by training the audience. And how do you train the audience? Well, you train them with educational content, and that educational content is through your emails and your ads. Now, I am a guy that focuses on backend ecosystems, and backend ecosystems involve just flows, automations, emails, SMS, and everything in between that I just don't have the time to talk about right now with you. However, I will say that for your emails and your ads, your educational content should be training the person on your product and history and story of your brand, and or just training certain problems that they may be having. Like if your brand focuses on neck pain, then we should talk about why neck pain exists. How do you ease out neck pain? Why does neck pain even come to in the first place? Why does your product solve these problems? What other areas of neck pain could your product solve for? So that's what we want to get through. Educational content is such, I would say, a short. People don't believe it enough. Okay, and the biggest brands that I've seen like dominate and stay here for years and years and years is simply because they have educational content. And educational content does not have to just be through your social media. It can be through your emails. It can be through a call to action through a SMS and getting them to your educational content. You just want to continually build this trust constantly with these people. And through education, ironically, what I'm doing to you right now is how you build this trust and keep the eyeballs watching. It's almost like having your landing page and decreasing your bounce rates by having a nice hero image or a nice video. It's like the same exact thing. Now, educational content helps people stay. helps people stay within your ecosystem, and starts building you as an authority within that field or niche or vertical. So that's what happens next. We're constantly nurturing these people, right? And that constant nurturing can be done through different types of things. It can be done through something I like to call, now we're shifting into more so complete backend, which is email, SMS, and flows. So that is done through flows and campaigns as well. From the email, SMS, I can't fit in campaigns in there, but you guys get the gist. So that constant nurturing can be done through flows and campaigns. All right. And through those flows and campaigns, then we can start gauging different styles of audiences, different things they like, what they don't like, and also what we can do in that constant nurturing as well through these flows is something like quizzes, so we can add quizzes into here. We can add engational content. Engational, it's not a word. We can engage with the customer too as well. We can do many other things like loyalty programs as well. Loyalty programs. And this doesn't have to be just like the Macy's type loyalty program. Oh, your grandma got a card and once she spends $500, she gets $20 back. No, the cool thing about today and age in 2025, we have so many different cool softwares like what's a good one? I would say Okendo. My company's partner with Okendo, but Okendo is a good platform. Yapo is another platform where you can build out your own loyalty program and make it more gamifiable. You make your brand now educational and gamifiable, and now people are starting to build more and more trust with you. This is what happens on the back end. This is how you start building this style of trust. I just downloaded iOS 26 today for my my freaking iPad right now, tablet, whatever. And I kid you not, everything is just seeming more UI friendly. And UI friendly, in my opinion, from what I've seen, it makes things more accessible, it makes things more easy to use, and it makes things more understanding. And through constant nurturing, we should be doing the same for your brand. We should make it easy for people to find your brand. We should make it easy for people to interact with your brand. And we should make it easy for people to extract value out of your brand. And that constant nurturing cycle does this ecosystem does this, right? It captures that information, it captures the right information, it captures more specific first-party data like through quizzes and different types of flows and campaigns. That way we can make things more geared towards our customer, all right? So through that constant nurturing, we throw them constantly down these flows and campaigns through this first-party data that we capture and we understand about the customer. Because the name of the game is to have the best data. When you have the best data, you can make better decisions, no matter the walk of life. That's just how business is. That's what I've grown to understand it to be. The more data you have, and the more cleaner that data is, the more educational decisions you can make about your business and brand and how to move forward. So, all right, we have the flows, campaigns, and quizzes, and now we need to go into the retention side things. We have the flows, we have nurturing, but what's next? So depending on your brand, you might have subscriptions. If you don't, and your product life cycle is under 60 days, under 180 days, highly recommend, or even if it's a year, you think people run out in a year, having ways to extract value from your clients, that value being the money, at this point in time in the ecosystem, is extremely important. You have to have a game plan of how you're going to extract more money. Some people just think, oh, I'm going to find ways to increase your AOV or average order value. Yes, that is a great tactic to focus on that, right? But we do that through our data capture, okay? When we capture this good data and in our or not here, let me get rid of that. And we do that here also in our flows, campaigns, quizzes, and loyalty programs. When we want to increase our AOV, we do it here when we understand more and more about the customer itself. But what we can do to kind of supplement that as we're capturing that data is to have our own subscription flows. And once we have our subscription flows, these subscription flows can be used in certain ways where we can decrease churn. Because subscription flows, I always recommend for any brand that can put in subscriptions to do it. Because a lot of times it takes a lot of friction for a customer to go back to your storefront, no matter where it's at, whether it's on Amazon, whether it's on your actual store on Shopify. It takes friction for them to get there. We want to reduce the amount of friction. Again, we want to make your brand like Apple UI. We want to make it as easy and accessible to use and pretty as possible. So subscriptions is just a way to supplement that, and then the flows is just how we make sure we decrease churn. And ultimately, what we want to do in this ecosystem, and this is getting a lot right now, so I might actually just draw this outside. All right, I'm gonna draw this outside. So it's to increase our LTV, right? And what does LTV mean? LTV means, I'm gonna get rid of actually some of this. I'm gonna scroll down. Lifetime value. This is the name of the game. We want to increase our lifetime value of our customers. Because when we increase our lifetime value of our customers and or our clients, that means they believe in us enough to continue to come back. It all leads down into what we're talking about today, is building that ecosystem to increase your lifetime value. Because when you can increase your lifetime value, yes, you're building that loyal audience, but then what we can do as well, a higher lifetime value equals, all right, so you know your customer's worth. And when you know your customer's worth, what can you do? Here's the cool part. Bid more. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, why would I want to spend more money and when on each client or customer to acquire when it's already down right now? So we're living in a competitive age, as I mentioned before at the top of this video. And the more you can spend on your customers means the more customers you can bring in. And the stores that will be lacking going forward are the stores that don't know how to build this backend ecosystem. And if you can build this backend ecosystem, you start capturing more first-party data. You start retargeting to the right people and the right customer, the ideal customer profile. And lastly, you'll be able to retain them more. So therefore, you can start acquiring more because you know how much they're truly worth. And that is the power of the backend ecosystem. This is my first video explaining it. So this might not be the best version of me explaining that. I'm definitely going to make this and refine it more and more times. But if this video was valuable, let me know. I believe just to essentially grow fast. But the businesses that do grow fast are the ones that have the foundation already in place. But in order to have the foundation in place, if you're a brand that just are starting from scratch, you need to make sure your internals are working to make the most out of people that are coming into your store. If you're a brand that is spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on ads every single month, you can contact my agency, etptech.com, and we would be more than happy to look into your backend ecosystems to see if it's set up for growth and scaling. Have a good day, stay safe and stay dangerous.